computer. Okay, now our session is recording. So let's go on with the presentation. Yeah. As I've stated, today's topic is strategic family therapy. Remember in our last class, I had mentioned that we were proceeding in a timeline. So actually this strategic family is still among the pioneers of family therapy. So this is not a post-modern approach like solution-focused family therapy or narrative family therapy. This is among the first movements in terms of family therapy. Okay, it goes along with the timing of structural family therapy as well. So, as you see, actually we briefly seen these names in our first class, in our second week, I guess. We were talking about the pioneers in the field of family counseling. And in terms of strategic family therapy, we have Bateson, Haley, Jackson, and Wickland as pioneers. And actually, this is among the, you will remember this story. So this is among the first theories which have examined the communication styles of schizophrenic families. I think you should all know that actually these family therapy approaches have evolved out of neurologists, those time psychiatrists works with schizophrenic children and their families, okay? So they have mostly focused on communication from different perspectives. And you will see that in strategic family therapy, the basic focus in terms of communication among schizophrenic family members is the double-bind messages the family members give to each other. In double-bind communication, a family member, a person, sends conflicting messages to the other family member. For example, you say something, maybe you lost your father, okay? And you are talking with your sister. And this is a loss. This brings along a trauma, a grief. But while you are talking about the death of your father, this is something expected to be said. Your body language states that actually you are smiling. You are talking about how sad you are, but at the same time you are smiling. So you are sending double-bind messages to your sibling, sister, whoever. So generally, when we talk about double-bind messages in a communication, we see that the verbal communication and non-verbal communication does not fit, does not complement each other. Okay? So the person who is listening to the other family member, cannot decide what's going on, what is the real thing that person is trying to convey as a message in that communication. Okay? So at that point, of course, think of yourself at this moment. Actually, I meet this in my sessions a lot. Somebody comes to the session with the grief of breaking up from, let's say, her boyfriend. She's, let's say, crying, but at the same time laughing. Okay, but saying that I'm very sad that I broke up with him. So I reflect these in individual sessions, but you are saying that you are sad, but beyond type of crying, you are also laughing. So there's a conflict. What is the real feeling that you adopt in this situation specifically, I ask. Okay, so to consider yourself now, there's a person just behind you and you are talking and you see such conflicts in this communication. After a while, you get confused, right? By its nature, it's just in quotation marks, like psychotic, right? Because which one is real? You question it, okay? So they have focused on this double-mind communication, and they defend that strategic family therapies, if these contradictions in communication and the messages conveyed go on in the family's communication system, these result in disorders in family members and lead to an unhealthy family functioning. And according to them, communication takes place in two ways: digital communication and analogic communication. In digital communication, the message conveyed carries only one meaning. It is clear, it is precise. But when we consider analogic communication, the message carries several meanings. Tone of voice, body language alters the meaning of the message being conveyed, okay? This mostly refers to sending double-mind messages to the other person in the family. Okay, when we consider the basic tenets of strategic family therapy, we see that hierarchy is something valued in the family system, okay? And it refers to power in this theory and differs with respect to the culture of the families. But traditionally, let's say in traditional family systems, power is thought to be held by men. And when we consider the time that strategic family therapy has arose, at that time, since in the family men held the power, they posited that since it is the men who hold the power in the family, then they are in the highest position in the hierarchy among the family members, okay? But from today's world, of course, you will observe the relationships among family members and you will see who holds the power, okay? So because this is something to be worked upon in strategic family therapy. In the case, hierarchy interferes with the healthy functioning of the family. It should be worked upon and changed. Otherwise, it shouldn't be intervened. Okay? Okay, we value hierarchy, but if everyone is okay with the hierarchy, the power a family member holds in the family, we don't touch it. But let's say family members have come to the session, and let's say the father holds the power and he keeps himself higher in the hierarchical position in the family system. And everyone criticizes this, okay? Everyone complains about it. They say that he always shouts at us, he never lets us go out after 6, and he always puts pressure on us, and we are not feeling ourselves free in this family. We are like prisons in this family, okay? If you hear about such complaints from all the family members, then this means that you need to intervene to this hierarchy, okay? And according to strategic family system, we said that they value communication, and they mostly focus on digital and analogical communication and the double-mind messages conveyed among family members. And we see that they value the hierarchy in the formation of families, okay, or how that hierarchy takes place in the families. But they also have come up with a proposition on how the family develops. So they say that rather than the individual development of the family members, the development and growth of the family as a whole is important. So their interventions do not focus on the functioning of a family member. Even if they are working with individual family members, they always aim the overall functioning of the family as a whole. So in this regard, another pioneer we had mentioned after Bateson, Haley stated that The families have some developmental periods. These are, as you see, firstly, partners, spouses have a flirt period. And afterwards, after they get married, yes, they have the first years of their marriage and they have their child and they raise their child. This is the third stage. And afterwards, they go through the mid period of their marriage. And then parents witness the individuation and separation of the children. And afterwards, spouses will experience retirement and old ages. You will remember these from family life cycles, okay? Although not detailed that much, Haley has come up with these stages, and in this session, they question in strategic family therapy how the spouses have their flirt periods, how were their first years of marriage, and what about having a child? Did they want to have a child? Whose idea was that? What about pregnancy? How was it? How was it to give a birth to that child? How was their experience of raising that child? And afterwards, how did they manage houseworks, being in labor force, economic issues, along with raising the child? And what about their acceptance toward the individuation of their children? Did they allow it, or did they try to keep their child in the family system? And so, according to their ages, these developmental periods of a family are all considered and evaluated in the sessions. And of course, every family therapy is after healthy functioning of a family. In order to define healthy, some of them have focused on the possible unhealthy dimensions of families. Some have focused on healthy dimensions. And strategic family, in terms of strategic family, we see that instead of focusing on unhealthy aspects of a family therapy, they have focused on the functions of a healthy family. So according to them, while healthy families go through the stages of family life cycle, unhealthy families have difficulty going through them. This means that, like Freud's perspective, they get stuck. They have difficulties. For example, they are in their first years of marriage, but still they are stuck in their flirt periods. Maybe this can be in form of missing those years, or this may be in form of you had done this to me while we were flirting, or you had said bad words to me while flirting, type of stacking to the previous stages. Not, I'm just trying to visualize and actually simplify these explanations. Strategic family therapy does not hold a psychodynamic approach, but they say that if families are not able to manage the stuffs of these developmental family periods, then they will be stuck there. They will be dealing with that. So they will not be able to go further. So this will result in some unhealthy functioning of that family, okay? And there are some basic assumptions of strategic family therapy. They state that symptoms are the signs that the family's functioning is unhealthy. You can catch it, right? Structural family therapy, Bowen's therapy, strategic family therapy, all have stated this. Symptoms are the signs that family's functioning is unhealthy. There is something problematic about the functioning of the family, okay? Without a change in the family system, it can't be expected that the family member who has been stigmatized with a symptom be treated. I think this resembles also previous approaches, and there is not a need for insight to change. Okay, everyone does not need to work with themselves, or that they shouldn't be aware of something, or they shouldn't, they needn't develop some insights into what is happening, for which reasons, etc. Okay, for change, they say that this is not necessary. And this is like a summary. Individual problems, individual family member problems arise from the problems in the family. Hierarchy in the family is so important. Most of the problems occur as a result of dysfunction in family hierarchy. Okay. And they state that in healthy families, there is a hierarchy in harmony with the family's culture. I had stated this before. If everyone is okay, if that family is in a culture where men are dominant, so men are expected to have the power. If the family is living in a culture where women are dominant, let's say, then the higher women are expected to be at the higher levels of that hierarchy. Okay, this is the culture of the family. So if the hierarchy hold in the family is appropriate with that culture they are in, then there is no problem. And the other point is the communication patterns of healthy families are flexible and clear. Okay. In terms of problems, we mostly define the characteristics of healthy families. In unhealthy families, let's say, problems are seen under three forms in the family. They are cybernetic, they are structural, they are functional. Okay, we evaluate, or they classify the problems under these three forms. When we say that the problems are cybernetic, this means that the problem in the family communication results in chronic problems. This is like computer network, okay? So there is a problem in the family and it spreads among the family members and results in chronic problems in the extended network. Problems are seen to be structural because they stem from problems in the familial hierarchy and the boundaries among the family members. So they are structure-based. And they are thought to be functional. For example, they stem from family members being overprotective and controlling on each other. And in this regard, by changing how the family functions, strategic family therapy reduces the risk factors that contribute to behavior problems and helps protect kids from future issues that may arise. Okay, so they show themselves in the behaviors of the family members. So since they are able to be shown in behaviors, they carry a function to reduce, to prevent possible future issues that may result in family members. In terms of the process of counseling and therapy of strategic family therapy, we see that the basic aim of counseling is to solve the current problems of the family. Yeah, what is the problem? Okay, this. Let's solve it. And first task in counseling is to accompany the family, determine a problem to be solved. Okay, first they will determine a problem to be solved. And another aim is to support families in their transition to the following stage of family life cycle or developmental periods of family. Okay. And in this strategic family therapy, we see that approximately 10 sessions are held, as it is in brief counseling. And throughout the counseling process, previously attempted solutions of the family are elaborated upon, and sessions focus on specific goals, are problem focused, and aim to solve the problem the family has brought into the session. As you may guess, Actually, there are resemblances to solution-focused brief therapy and behavioral therapy, but considering the time of strategic families involvement, it is more probable that it has been affected by behaviorism, but at those times, since solution-focused therapy has not been formulated yet, maybe solution-focused therapy got some points out of this, but it resembles behaviorism and solution-focused brief counseling approaches, TNET. Okay, there are four conditions for achievement in this session. To understand that we did a great job in this session, and to achieve the result. Firstly, the problem should be determined clearly and shortly by the family members, and the therapist should understand it. Secondly, the solutions that have been attempted recently should be examined. Now, actually, I'm type of summarizing what I've mentioned previously. Thirdly, they should determine a concrete change which will be achieved. So you are asking your clients, the family members, as a result of these sessions, what do you prefer, or what do you expect that will be different at the end of the sessions, okay? So that you ask them to define the concrete change they want to achieve at the end of the sessions. And afterwards, you are going to plan strategies for change and taking actions for these changes, resembling behavioral therapies. Okay, actually, in terms of the involvement of family members, as you see here, strategic family therapists ask every family member to be in the first session. Okay, they want them in the first session, but in the other sessions, they may go on working with a single family member. This may be an option. If all the family members are coming, they are welcome. But it is not a must that in all the sessions, all the families should be there. Okay. And change is seen to be possible in the family with one member, but for this to be achieved, the therapist should be competent enough. Okay. Actually, we had talked that we don't deal with individual change, but the change in family system as a whole. If I'm running individual sessions with a family member, still my aim as a strategic family therapist is to do some changes in the family system. Okay? I'm not after healing the symptoms of that individual family member. But throughout this individual family member, I'm trying to change the family system. So I'm working with that member here, then sending him or her to the family system. Okay? So, but in order to be able to achieve this, the therapist should be very competent. The therapist should not fall into the gap that he or she is gonna work with the issues of that family member, with the specific issues of that family member. The aim always should be to foster some change in the family system as a whole. Okay, so those individual family members are used as a tool, let's say. And in counseling, in strategic family counseling process, there are 5 stages. First one, or one of the phases, is social phase. The counselor interacts with every family member and makes them feel themselves. There's a mistake in the English here. Valuable. The counselor observes the parental attitudes, hierarchy, boundaries among the family members. So this is like the introduction and building trust phase in the general sequence of therapies and counseling, okay? In this social phase, family members and the counselor therapist gets acquainted to each other. And the therapist reflects back with his or her comments and interpretation in a way that family members feel valuable in the session, okay? And while doing this, of course, therapist makes in-depth observations. And these observations are among parental attitudes, couple relations, hierarchy, power relations, boundaries among the family members, their communication, the double mind messages they convey to each other. Okay, the counselor observes these. In the problem phase, the reason of families ask for therapy is asked, and each member's perspective is obtained. And in the interaction phase, family members are asked to talk about the problem among each other, and the therapist still observes the hierarchy in these sharings, and the therapist tries to get an understanding on how the hierarchy leads the family system. Does the hierarchy have potential to result in the symptoms of family members? Is it healthy, or does it result in some non-healthy functioning of the family? So this phase is valued a lot in strategic family therapy because the therapist gets a lot of information at this phase too. And afterwards, after the family members decide on the problem they want to work on, we have the goal setting phase. Okay, problem is set clearly and concretely in an observable way. And afterwards, the counselor gives homework to the family to do specific tasks to lead to the change they want to achieve at the end of the sessions. And as you see here, techniques, especially homeworks, skill training, and advice giving. These are the techniques of which approach? Behaviors. Okay? So as I've stated before, these techniques, as well as the understanding, general approach to family members' problems, strategic family therapy resembles behavioral approach. Beyond that, they also utilize from instructions, metaphors, and reframing in their way of counseling. And instructions are given to the family till the next session to help family members act differently. Here is an example for instructions as a technique of strategic family therapy. For example, the woman who has vomiting obsession is asked to think about vomiting every day in the kitchen for an hour, but not to think about it somewhere else. And husband is asked to observe the wife. Okay? So the therapist has assigned some instructions to the woman. Okay. You love thinking about vomiting and afterwards vomiting, and this has been repeating in your life, then do this. Okay, you are gonna do this, but let's specify, or let's clearly set its boundaries. Okay, so you will think about vomiting, you will do it every day, but only in the kitchen and for an hour. Okay, and you will not think about it anywhere else. Okay? And husband, you are responsible for observing your wife. This is giving instruction from the perspective of structural family counseling. Or a client who has insomnia is asked to clean the kitchen in detail if after 20 minutes of lying down on the bed, she has difficulty falling asleep. Client has insomnia. If that client lies on the bed in the evening, but for 20 minutes, if he is not able to sleep, then he will get out of the bed and clean the kitchen in detail. Okay, these are instructions. And also, as if paradox we have as a technique used in strategic family therapy. Parents, for example, are asked to act as if they need their child, that child adopts a symptom, they will act as if they need their child, and the child will act as if helping his parents, okay? They will pretend it to be. And as I've stated before, reframing is another technique used. This is changing the way a family perceives the problem. For example, parents' perception that their child is a troublemaker is changed with the perception that he is energetic. Okay, overall, of course, as all therapy, strategic family therapy holds some strengths and weaknesses. Basic strength is that its effectiveness has been tested with empirical studies. And we see that it can be supported with structural therapy because their assumptions of hierarchies, setting boundaries, communication styles are all aligned with structural therapy's propositions. And as we have discussed through, it is also supported with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. But as a weakness, it has been stated that the duration of the therapy is short, approximately about 10 sessions, and it does not deal with very serious issues. Okay, a family has daily problems, so they are needed to be solved. So let's work with them. Okay, so this has been criticized. Okay, this is the end of the presentation. Now, if you have any questions or anything, any part you didn't understand, we can go through those parts, okay? Anyone who has any questions, anything to say, anything you didn't understand? I guess no. No hocam, Mahabat. Thank you, Mahabatcığım.